John, you work at Columbia University.
I do.
Speaking of clown cars.
All right, people, brace yourselves because we're diving headfirst into the explosive face-off on Real Time with Bill Maher. Picture this. Bill Maher comes center stage, equipped with his typical razor-sharp wit, blasting out just what many of us have been thinking but would be terrified to say out loud. He took on an exceptionally woke guest, and the sparks ignited.
All right, so, John, you work at Columbia University.
I do.
Speaking of clown cars.
I should say that I have been on a blissful sabbatical for the entire year.
Lucky you.
I only know so much, but go ahead.
All right. Well, I mean, starting last week, Trump is going to war now on elite universities. Now, I cannot be a hypocrite. I went through my book that came out last year. It'll be out in paperback very soon. I can't be a hypocrite. I wrote down some of the things that I've said over the past that were gathered in the book. Don't go to an elite college, it makes you stupid. Elite universities are the mouth of the river from which manner all radical left illiberal, yes, illiberal nonsense flows. They're four-year daycare centers for the cry bullies of the privileged to complain about privilege. College today is not the college you remember. It's a day spa and a North Korean re-education camp put together.
He didn't just critique. He slammed elite institutions for their predilection for propagating damaging beliefs, turning campuses into breeding grounds for hate veiled beneath the mantle of liberalism.
They're asshole factories. If ignorance is a disease, Harvard majority is the Wuhan wet market. Okay, so that's where I am. I can't, but I get the inclination, but as with most things now with this new administration, the way they do it, you can't do it by taking people off the street just because they wrote an op-ed pro-Palestinian. I'm not pro-Palestinian the way they see it either, but, or, you know, these people who are just disappeared because they have a tattoo. I'm so glad I don't have tattoos.
Bill, I should say that the kind of student you're talking about, in my experience, is a minority of the students. I don't see the whole campus as this, but there is a problem. I mean, frankly, Columbia has tried, for example, this year to eradicate or at least dampen anti-Semitism. I mean, Manoush Shafiq did get 100 students arrested. You now cannot get onto the campus without a card, which is in order to protect, especially Jewish students, from having to listen to anti-Semitic protests all day long. The 3 administrators who were nakedly anti-Semitic in their texts were justifiably fired. But the thing is, I don't think this is really about anti-Semitism.
Now, let's really get into what happened on this episode of Real Time with Bill Maher, the kind of entertainment that keeps people on the edge of their seats, sometimes nodding, other times gasping in awe. To begin, Bill Maher did what he does best. He shook the tree and watched the fruit fall.
And I think they care about as much about anti-Semitism as a kitchen cabinet or a spoon. What really upset about is just wokeness in general, and universities do have a problem with wokeness. That is a real problem.
Yes, they have a problem. The writer for the New York Times, whose newest book is called Pronoun Trouble, John McWhorter, and the New York Post columnist and author of The Canceling of the American Mind, Ricky Schwab. Okay. All right. Look how good we must have done in the real show. All right, here are the questions from the people. What did the panel think of Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett calling Texas governor, okay, she's from Texas, the governor, Greg Abbott, who is paralyzed and uses a wheelchair, she called him Governor Hot Wheels. What do you think?
Congressperson Crockett is part of the new trend where informality is okay, where formality used to reign. Yeah. Okay, fine. That's been going on since the 60s. So her routine is that she wants to bring a little bit of what I might quaintly call the ghetto cat fight into these Faces. I get it. Bring a blaxploitation movie or something into Congress. Great. Work it. But you do not make fun of the fact that somebody lives their life in a wheelchair. That doesn't work.
With his usual oratory talents, he laid the groundwork, criticizing the status quo that, in his view, has turned these prestigious colleges into factories, producing indoctrinated individuals instead of critical thinkers. Quite an event that was raging, controversial, and, according to some, long overdue. He wasn't hesitant about condemning the ridiculous wokeness that he says is rampant on today's campuses. By asserting that these institutions generate an echo chamber that ignores differing ideas and nurtures a lack of rational thought, Maher drove his point home. He focused his argument on the demeaning and restrictive nature of this woke agenda. But this wasn't just small talk. Oh no, Maher addressed his guests like a seasoned trial attorney. If you watch his show, you might as well be in the studio with him, experiencing the heat of the discussion firsthand. He didn't shy away from calling these elite colleges out as indoctrination centers, and he confronted his guest, a proponent of academia's current system, head-on. This speaker, a representative from a well-known university, attempted to dispute Maher's allegations, insisting that these institutions are merely cultivating a new generation of understanding and compassion. But Maher didn't buy it. He criticized the glorification of censorship and called it what it is, an assault on free expression. And the twist in this whole setup? The audience embraced every ounce of Maher's defiance, cheering him on like he was some kind of cultural warrior. In their eyes, he was saying what had to be said, what had needed saying for a long time. The debate took another ugly turn when Bill Maher dove into the thorny topic of anti-Semitism on college campuses. It's, as they say, a hot-button issue. He accused these institutions of fostering a culture that's occasionally hostile to particular groups, notably Jewish students. Even with efforts being made to curb this, as one of his guests attempted to point out, Maher wasn't impressed. To him, these were only superficial fixes, carefully orchestrated to show the world how progressive they are without addressing the fundamental issue. Maher was relentless, wasn't he? He didn't let the guest off easily, repeatedly asking probing questions that forced the speaker to concede that, yes, occasionally, messages of hatred slip through the cracks of political correctness. And that's when Maher truly hit his stride, cracking the mask of what he calls a charade of diversity that conceals deeper flaws. You could see the audience reacting, gasps, applause, a mix of agreement and disagreement, but absolute engagement. That's the Maher magic, right? You're never quite sure where you stand until he makes you question everything you took for granted. And hey, it wasn't solely about anti-Semitism, it was a broader critique of what Americans perceive as a decline in the quality of education due to an overbearing focus on progressive ideology. Kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? Is education today about fostering free thinkers, or is it more about creating a comfortable, unchallenged culture? Bill Maher wasn't buying the idea that colleges are simply evolving. He saw it as stagnation. His guests defended institutions, arguing they're adapting to modern challenges, but the debate quickly turned heated, with words like brainwashing and censorship flying around. Maher pushed harder, exposing the deep divide in how we view academia today. So, what do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments section below, and if you don't want to miss out on the hottest celebrity news, make sure to subscribe to Daily Finder.